Hi, my name is Susan, and I'm here to talk to you about a specific type of therapy method to use in speech-language intervention for children with language impairments. I'm talking about interactive book reading or interactive storybook reading, and it can be used with children with a wide range of language impairments, from language delay to specific language impairment to children on the autism spectrum. Um, Really, I feel like it can be used with almost any child in language intervention. And specifically, interactive book reading or interactive storybook reading consists of using books as a tool in intervention to create opportunities for a child to use spoken language to develop their receptive and expressive language skills. And research has shown that this using books in intervention can, especially in interactive book reading, can improve a child's mean length of utterance, can improve their sentence complexity, their variety of vocabulary, their narrative skills, and their overall receptive and expressive language skills. Um, in using books to create language opportunities, it's important to realize that you do not need to read the words that are in the book, and you also do not need to read the book in order, and you do not even need to finish the book. It's about using it in the most effective way possible and as an effective tool to create dialogue and interaction that uses language. So I know that can often be challenging that was challenging for me when I was first using books in therapy. And what was helpful was using some books that did not have a lot of language or didn't have a lot of words on the page, because then I couldn't rely on that. And there's even a great series, there's many great series, but one that I really used and liked is by the author Alexandra Day. And she has this dog, Carl the dog, and she has a whole bunch of these books. This one is Carl Goes Shopping, and what's great about her books is they tell the whole story using only pictures. And I know it may look like a book for a young child. Here's Carl and the baby. There's almost always the baby in the story. And so she begins with a little bit of word to sort of get the story started. And here the mother's going to go shopping, and she says, Carl, you watch the baby, be good. And then the rest of the story is told exclusively with pictures. And what's great is then you create your own language, or the child creates their own language and uses their own words to tell the story. So that's one great way to help yourself develop those skills of not relying on the words in the book. But sometimes books with words can be also very useful in interactive book reading, especially books that use familiar nursery rhymes or songs that children know. And it gets them really into it and really excited. So I found two great examples of these are Rosemary Wells did these versions, but they make use of the song Old MacDonald and the Itsy Bitsy Spider. And they both use the songs, the familiar songs, which can be great in using in intervention with children. So that's another example of sometimes the words are really useful. And I'm going to show you, like for Old MacDonald, it can be great because you can use it with by sort of pausing and letting the child fill in more of it. So even some of the sometimes I like to use the closed sentence technique, which involves leaving out the last word or letting the child fill in the end of the sentence. So, you know, and you can even sing it. So you can say, Old MacDonald had a, and let the child finish. They know that word, farm, E-I-E-I-O. And on his farm he had some. And the great thing with books is you can often have the visual referent, even when it's a familiar song, to help them know. Ducks, E-I-E-I-O. With what does a duck say? Quack, quack here and a quack, quack there. And so you're letting the child interact with you and fill in the words. And I'm not the one that's focused on just reading the book. And if the child is like, maybe I don't like ducks, in the back she has all the other animals, and you can do it, and you can go out of order, and you can say, oh, maybe he had a, let the child say a cow. Oh, the cow, what sound does a cow make? Moo. And continue on that way. So I wanted to show two different kinds of books. Sometimes it's really helpful to not have words, and sometimes it's really helpful to have some words that are familiar and repetitious. And I also wanted to talk about this wonderful resource, the book It Takes Two to Talk, and it's by Jan Pepper and Elaine Weitzman, and it's sort of an approachable guide for, it's I think written specifically towards parents, but it's been great for clinicians too, and it's using the Hanen program, or the Hanen Center program, which has a lot of different techniques about developing language for children. And in the back they have this terrific section all about the best things about books and turning book reading into a conversation. And they have some great guidelines or tips here in using books in therapy that I think are really important to remember. So in using books in an interactive way, you want to make sure you get face-to-face with the child and not let the book be in between you, and make it more about the interaction. You're sharing the book. And one of the Hanen methods they talk about is the OWL method, and that means the observe, wait, and listen. And that sort of lets the child approach the book and show you what they're interested in. So you're observing them. You can just first show them some pages. And maybe the child is really drawn to a bunny. Look, the bunny. And then you could say, yeah, look, I see the bunny. And now we've got an interaction going, I see an elephant. But that's because I was observing, waiting, and listening for what the child produced themselves. In the It Takes Two to Talk book, also they stress giving your child the chance to take turns. So sometimes we get so caught up in telling a story that we're not allowing the child their chance to take a turn. And so it can be really important to, as you're reading the book, I can say, oh, look where they are. And then I'm waiting. And let the child say, maybe the child say, I'm reading. And so making sure you're giving those turn-taking opportunities to the child. Also changing the words in a book. They stress that in the It Takes Two to Talk. You don't need to depend on the words that are there on the page. Change them to be effective so the child can most relate to them. And then they also talk about the Hanen method of using the 4 S's, which are say less, stress, go slow, and show. So the say less, obviously, as the adult in the interaction, I'm using less language, letting the child have the opportunity to produce more of it. Stress, I'm going to be stressing certain words. If we're targeting certain words, maybe we're targeting prepositions, or maybe we're targeting pronouns, then I'm going to be stressing those words. She is reading. He is sitting. Things like that. Also, in the It Takes Two to Talk book, they talk about repeat, repeat, repeat. And they say what's wonderful about using books in intervention is that they're always there to return to, and they're always the same. Spontaneous language, spontaneous conversation is fleeting. It's hard to return to it, but the pictures are the same. You can come back to it. So if a child has a favorite, you can use it again and again, and repetition helps them build and develop those skills and that confidence. Now I'm going to go through some other techniques and about creating interactive book reading. And that's the key to this. It's not just about reading a book to a child. It must be interactive. So things we can do to ensure that are using expansion and extension, using closed sentences, using commenting, using pausing, using questions to create that interaction, and also using some conversational markers during the shared reading of a book. So for expansion and extension, again, I'm going to use Crawl a Dog. So if the child had an utterance and said, "Doggy, sit," an expansion would be making it grammatically correct, and I could say, "Yes, the doggy sat," or "the doggy sits," to make it more grammatically correct. An extension would be making it grammatically correct and then adding a little additional information. I could say, "Oh, the doggy sat next to the baby," and that would be an extension. To use closed sentences, I could also, again, I sort of demonstrated that a little earlier with the Old MacDonald, but I could do it here and say, "Look, the baby grabbed the doggies," and hopefully, and leave that space there, leave that pause, and hopefully the child would end my sentence and say ear, or maybe even if they said head, if they weren't sure what it was, that would be fine, you know. So that would be a closed sentence. I can also use commenting, and I'm going to show you another great book. I love using the Curious George books. They're great, and they do have a lot of language, but you don't need to use it. And so I could comment and say, "Oh, when I turn to this page, look, I see kites," and let the child just hear my comments. I'm not asking them or putting any direct demands on them. And there's a lot going on. They could say, "I see ducks," or "water," "a truck." And then we've got an interaction going on just from making comments in the book. Also, using pauses is a really effective technique in reading books together to create that interaction. And this is another terrific book I wanted to share with you guys, No, David, and I've used this a lot in therapy. Kids find it so funny, and because this poor little boy David, he wants to just do so many things, and he keeps being told, "No, David," and he's getting in so much trouble. Look, here's the mom with her. And so sometimes I even just start here. Look at Mom. Where are her hands? Is she happy? Oh no. So, but I'm showing you guys pausing. Oh, look. He's drawing. Isn't that nice? And then the kids and I'd say, "Oh, but no, David. Where's he drawing? He's drawing on the wall. Oh no." And I'm trying to show you. Oh. Oh my goodness. And so I'm using some pausing here. And I could just be pointing and showing them the picture. What is he trying to do? And another technique is what I'm doing right now is asking questions. And you can ask, a lot of times WH questions are great. So who, what, where, when, and sometimes why. Why is the trickier one. But, oh my goodness, what did he do? And then I'm pausing. And so I'm using those questions to create language for the opportunities for the child to use their language. He got mud. And I've had kids tell me, he needs a vacuum. He needs to clean. And no. So even though those are the only words on the page, there's a lot of other language opportunity here. And also, you can ask some more open-ended questions like, "Oh, what's happening?" And let the child have to describe, "Oh my goodness." Well, some of them might say, he's washing, he's playing, he's taking a bath. "Oh no, he's spilling." Okay, so we can work on that. They love this page. Come back here, David. He's running down. What did he forget? That's a question. What did he forget? His clothes. Where is he? Is he inside? No, he's on the street. Okay, so you can kind of get the picture of how you can incorporate questions to create interactions. And you can use conversational markers. So Conversational markers are things like mm-hmm or uh-huh. Oh, things like that. So I could say, oh, and pause and wait and let the child tell me what they see. And then I've had children tell me he's sad. And then I get to say, yeah, he's sad, he's crying. Why is he sad? Okay. So those are just a few techniques about using books in an interactive way. And I hope you find that really helpful and useful. And please see my attached handout to really break it down, the other techniques and ways to use the books. So thank you so much for your time, and I hope you find using books in therapy as useful as I have. Thank you.